Hey, go ahead, Stefano. Welcome back to Big Hairy News, Pink Pat and Chewie edition.
You thought you were done, and we dragged you back in. How you doing tonight,
Yeah,
Ed?
I'm good. I'm very pink today. I'm gonna have some weird lighting today. I'm down a light, so you're just gonna have to deal with changing it,
There we go. Is
changing
is that what we want?
changing vibes. Oh
Is it
yes,
too?
that evens it
Is it
out.
too gendered?
We're binary today, are we?
It's too gendered. Yeah, that's good. I don't get to use my colours very often, so I'm going to.
You should. You
Yeah.
should.
What a day it is! It is the end of my week, and
Woohoo.
I'm looking forward to a couple of days of distraction. And by that I mean sanding the window frames of my house tomorrow. So, yay!
Oh,
That's a
did you
sensory
get a
nightmare. I hate
did
it.
you, did you get a roof? A new roof, was
I
it?
I
Is
have
it
a
on
new
now?
roof on. I have a new roof
Wow.
on. I believe our solar is going on next week. So
Ooh.
yeah, we just
Battery
that's why we
too,
make.
or
No, I
no
didn't go for the
battery?
battery. The
Oh,
battery's an interesting one
shame.
because we've got two EVs.
Hmm.
One of which can do vehicle to load, so you can run stuff off it. Um, the battery doesn't make a lot of sense at this point because
Yeah.
if we're generating a lot, we'd be putting it into the car, and otherwise we're selling it
Hmm.
back to sort of pay off the solar as quick as possible. So yeah, once that's done, then I'll start looking at the batteries, and the prices of that they're coming right down. So that's the plan,
Cool.
at least.
Oh, I suppose it's the big. It's what everyone says is that the battery's the next big expense.
Yep.
Once, because it's yeah, they're like quite a number of thousands.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
But good
They'll
on you
they'll
for getting some
easily add
solar.
5 to 10 grand onto a solar install. And look, you know I hate praising the government, but one of the sole good things that they have done in this term is that they've increased the amount of solar energy that can be sold back to the power generators. So that has shaved literally years off how long it will take to pay off the solar panels. I think it went from 8 to 6 years.
Mm. Well, I mean, sometimes capitalism is a good thing. All right. Before we have our first guest, who's going to join us from the New Zealand Nurses Organisation, I think we should say a quick thank you to the people that make the show possible. Otherwise, we'll probably forget. We should probably always say thank you. To our patrons, who make this wonderful show possible and brings this to you tonight. If you want to join us, you can go to patreon.com/BigHearingNews and you get cool things like sneak peeks of merchandise, and sometimes you'll get exclusive interviews before they get released.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everything from $5 to, if you're generous, $250 a month. Other ways you can support us are through super chats or just chatting with us and sharing the content. The other one is if you want to wear us around, you can put Chewy Fufu on your body or a Nikki No Boats on your body and walk around and tell people that you love us.
It is it's still very strange to for me to see pieces of our clothing out in the wild. Somebody walked past my workplace today. I'm not going to say who it was, but yes, I saw your Nikki No Boats hoodie, and I acknowledge and praise it.
Good on you. Yeah, so tonight's show is going to be a bit of a fun one, actually. I'm kind of glad I got pulled into this scenario. Also, if you're wondering, Pat has got some family business, so he's pulled me in to keep the things running. But I'm actually I'm kind of somewhat glad because I would like Chewy's opinions on some things. We've had
I've had opinions in the past. I think I
well,
can
this is
manage one.
somewhat your specialty. We were talking. I'd like to talk to you about the Clarke and Kyiv in China with the old Putin and Kim Jong Un, and today we had Judith in Ukraine. So a bit of a weird day for New Zealand's foreign politics, or at least a weird week for it. But the other story that we're going to cover tonight is we've got Ian Daniels from the New Zealand Nurses Organisation, should I say, talking about the strikes that have been happening from Tuesday to Thursday this week, and yeah, interesting things happening there. So, Ian, if you're ready, we'll pop you on, and we'll have a chat. Hello, Anne.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah, sorry I'm in the dark. I'm in the car just outside the airport.
All good. Busy day for you, I assume, or busy week for you, I suppose.
Yeah, it has been, but it's usually like that. But the strikes have added another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. How did they go this week? How did you find things?
Well, you possibly know that I live in Dunedin, and so I was on the picket line with all the ward staff on Tuesday, not on Thursday because I was in Christchurch. But it was just great. People keep turning up. We organised a roster of people to come, so we had a constant flow of nurses, and that meant everybody got on the picket line at some stage. And it just shows you how nurses work together as a team, no matter what part of the hospital they work in. They do it together, and they do it for each other, and they do it for their patients.
Because this time around you had you still had well, I mean, obviously you got to keep things running to some degree. So you had still had staff on the wards doing, I guess.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? Because obviously you've got some on the picket line striking, but got to still have people on the ground.
It's a bit of a business. It's called LPS, or Life Preserving Services. And what happens is that the New Zealand Nurses Organisation delegates put a call out to their colleagues and ask if they want to work their life preserving services. But before that, we negotiate with Te Whatu Ora in each department on how many nurses we believe from our own clinical judgment are needed to provide LPS, not business as usual. And then we set up a roster for that. If it can't be filled because our nurses choose to go on strike rather than work LPS, it's the organisation, or Te Whatu Ora Health New Zealand's responsibility to fill the gaps. And generally, in the past, we've had no real issues filling LPS, but more and more we're seeing that nurses want to go on strike.
Yeah, I think that's very reflective of the feeling across the board with the frustrations of not getting anywhere with these negotiations. Chewie, I see you have questions.
Yes, I was going to say the government has tried very, very hard to spin a narrative that nurses are being selfish, greedy, putting patients at risks to go on this strike action. That's definitely the point that they've been trying to hammer home in the media. How has the support been from people? Have they seen through this? Do they see the need for what the nurses are doing at the moment?
I don't believe I've actually heard one person or seen one negative comment on any of the social media platforms that I'm on that don't support, are negative towards nurses. The support there is huge. More and more members of the public are actually standing up and saying that they absolutely do see the spin. And you know very well yourselves, you interview plenty of people, and the government has a PhD in spin, misinformation, and, dare I say it, straight out lies. And that's very, very clear to us. I think that everybody understands why we're going on strike. We're going on strike because we can't do the job that we're supposed to. There aren't enough nurses. And the fact is, the spin is, we're harming the patients. Well, the government and Te Whare Ora have chosen to put budget before people. They are the ones that are harming our patients long term, because they're not allowing us to be there when we need to be there. So cases in theatre are being cancelled because there aren't enough nurses and pre-op, post-op on the surgical wards in the intensive care. And it just goes on. ED is totally full up because we can't get patients into wards because patients are waiting in hospital beds for treatment, theatre, procedures. It just gets worse and worse.
Yes, I saw the other day a story in the ODT that Dunedin's emergency department wait times are the worst in the country.
Yes, that's true.
With 15 hours being required to be seen in an emergency department.
It really depends on your triage score, though, Chewie. If you're about to lose your life, or potentially about to lose your life, you will be seen immediately.
Yeah.
It's all those people who are considered to be not life-threatening issues that wait, and while they wait, they get sicker. And so, if you're a nurse in an ED, you'll go along and the corridors that are totally filled with patients and the drafty ambulance bays, and you sweep your eyes over people to actually just check that they're not going down the tubes, and you have to do something about it. But it's quite terrifying sometimes when you're on duty because you just don't know what's happening. And it's the quiet patients that we worry about the most because they lie there and they don't ask for anything. And then next thing you know, they're so sick they need resus. And it's because, one, they shouldn't be in the corridors or in the wait rooms. And two, we don't have enough nurses and doctors to actually get to them according to their triage score. So, for instance, if you're triaged as a 3, it means that you're supposed to be seen in half an hour. But those patients often don't be seen by a doctor for many, many hours, countless hours. And the research shows very clearly that patients that wait in EDs are more likely to be harmed or die. Their outcomes are worse, and it's because they wait too long.
I mean, I'm just skimming through this story about the wait time, and even though there's a couple of comments from people that are bringing up how long they were there for, but at no point are the staff blamed. They're praised. It was 10 hours before we were seen by a doctor. My 84-year-old mum was there with face droop and slurred words with a suspected stroke. To be clear, the nurses were marvellous and monitored her blood pressure the entire time, but it was stressful. They're understaffed and are clearly under immense pressure. Now, that is the sound of a public that knows who's to blame here, and it's not the front line.
I would encourage people who are waiting in the emergency department or not able to get appointments with their GPs to complain. People in this country don't complain enough. I know that sounds weird from a nurse, but the fact is that because they don't complain, the government says there's nothing to see here. We're very stoic as a population. And I encourage my patients, if there are things that I would expect for my family, I hand them out complaint forms when I'm on duty, and do that quite deliberately because they just don't understand how helpful it is for us to actually have those complaints put in, because it shows a picture of the extreme distress that our health system is in.
So your advice, I guess, to us from now on is to, even though we support you and what you're doing, and we do appreciate our nurses and how hard you guys are working to make it all happen, as to the next best thing to do actually is to say this isn't working, it sucks, and complain so that it's on the record.
Exactly. Absolutely. And the more people who complain, the more pressure is being put on to Whare managers to actually put aside the budget and actually meet the need, or stand up and have some spine, as Clarke would put it, and actually force the government to actually fund them so that they can hire more nurses. You know, I was on the picket line on Tuesday and I stood beside a young man and I said to him, thanks for coming out. And I said, where are you working? He said, I'm not. I said, how come? He said, well, I graduated 6 months ago and I can't get a job and I'm applying to go to Australia. That was heartbreaking for me. And 45% of our new grads are not getting jobs and they're leaving the country. And we need them desperately to stay. So it's pretty bad, really.
Wow.
That's crazy. They're still saying that there's no hiring freeze, though, right?
Oh, there is a hiring freeze. Well, technically there isn't. Technically they are hiring people, but it's such a drip feed, it doesn't make any difference. And they're only hiring to budget. They're not hiring to need. So when I say that, we have got a tool called Care Capacity Demand Management, which I understand from Richard O'Sullivan's recent comments that they're actually thinking of throwing out. This is a evidence-based tool that was developed purely for the New Zealand context and was proven to work. But it hasn't worked over the years because they haven't hired enough nurses that have been identified to meet the need. So it's, everywhere we look, Te Whare and the government are working to make the health system, the public health system, fail. And this is part of that I suppose, strategy. They want our private system to be up and running. And that's pretty obvious, by the way. They're actually talking about building private hospitals, which the majority of us will not be able to afford to use in the first place.
Yeah. I read today, just looking at something from Dr. Richard Sullivan.
Yes.
I can't see what his chief clinical officer was saying that he did not believe the country's hospitals were understaffed. What do you say to that?
He's one of the same people who have been, I don't know whether he was directly involved, but Te Whare, the nameless Te Whare, has been refusing to give us, the New Zealand Nurses Organisation, data that on staffing levels throughout the country for over a year. And you may have noticed, as you said earlier, the Te Whare has had to apologise to New Zealand Nurses Organisation and forced to do so by their ombudsman because they deliberately refused to give the data. They tried to stop it every which way until we laid a formal complaint. And the data was damning. It says exactly the opposite that Richard O'Sullivan is saying. Exactly the opposite. Oh, yep. Yep. So in one of the wards in Dunedin Hospital, they're understaffed by 50% on an average basis for every shift. I think that's the medical assessment unit. And there are acutely ill patients that go there. And I know some of the nurses that work on that ward, and they work very, very hard. But it's a real struggle going to work every day when you know that you're not going to have enough staff to do the job. It just drains you physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yeah. So with this week's strike action, where does that does that leave you with the negotiations? Are you calling? Are they calling you back to the negotiation table? What's
We've
next?
never left the table. That's another piece of misinformation. We have, when they were saying that we'd left the table, we were actually in mediation with them across the table on the same day. We've never left the table. We've always tried to negotiate with them, but every time they come back to the table, instead of putting something on the table, they remove it. So we have started off, we've got less now than we started off with a year ago. They've been putting things on the table and then removing them. So it's pretty hard for the negotiating team, but they've been so strong in constantly calling for safe staffing as our number one priority. And we will win that. Our main ask is for nurse-patient ratios so that we can actually ensure that there are enough nurses to meet the patient need. And NZNO was calling for what we call ratio justice last year, which is talking about having culturally safe nursing. So that's having even more nurses to provide culturally safe care, which takes time. And we want that to be legislated and enforceable. In other words, if the employers do not provide safe staffing, they will be fined. And this is something Queensland has in place, which is why our nurses are going there.
How long do you expect this to? Oh, sorry, Chewie, but how long do you expect it to take before you see a resolution? Do you think? Because it has been a while.
Yes, it has been a while, but because we know that the public's behind us and the people we care for are there for us, despite the fact that they're suffering terribly, we're going to continue to act. We're going to put on various actions in different ways to just keep the pressure on until we actually get Te Whatuora back to the table with a proper offer, not only of money and wages, but also safe staffing. We have asked for, the senior nurses were promised 2 years ago that they would get relativity, but it was death by committee. Nothing's happened there, and we're hemorrhaging our senior nurses at the moment because they're not being paid what they're worth, and they're the meat in the sandwich. They're supposed to try and get enough nurses on the floor to care for the patients, but they're being told they can't hire. So they're finding it very difficult, and some of them are quite a few of them are getting paid less than nurses on the floor now.
Wow.
So we'll keep going until we win. We've got no choice. We actually have to do this for our patients because they are the ones that are losing out.
Chewie, sorry.
I'm going to take a cheap shot here because I think this is the place for it. I assume this is all going to come to an end because Health Minister Simeon Brown demands that the union and Health New Zealand go into arbitration. I assumed that involved him stamping his little feet because this is very embarrassing to him and he's run out of blue tack to stick posters on his electric window.
Wasn't that funny?
Oh, the
Whole
disrespect. Oh, and I'm just going to highlight it. This is a comment for you, Anne. Where's it gone? Chat, slow down. Anne sounds like every union person I have ever dealt with. It'll happen. Like just the inevitability of, yes, it'll happen. Like the inevitability of the union winning. I've seen it as well with union delegates as it's just like, it's a fight, but we're going to win it.
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah.
Well, that's a bit of praise in that case. I'll take that. I'm very happy with that. Yeah. Yeah, so we've met with Simeon once, and he spent 20 minutes of our half an hour telling us what we were not allowed to talk about. So that was interesting. We haven't met again. But I would like to actually sit down and talk to him and have that opportunity. And in fact, I'm looking forward to it because he will be our opening speaker at our AGM next week, in a week's time. So yeah, we're going to have
Ooh,
that
I expect a lot
opportunity.
of booze in the room for that one.
No,
Perhaps?
no, there's going to be none of that. You know,
Best behaviour.
I well, it's about actually having a conversation, and you have to do it in a respectful way. And he's got his position, we've got ours. We have to keep the door open to um, having conversations so that we can actually find a way through this. They're in government right now, so we have to find a way to, I suppose, have a conversation that we both understand.
Hmm.
We'll have to work hard at that.
Yes, you have much more maturity than I think us and most of our chat has for sure. I think it's. I do feel for you that you might have to bite your tongue a few times though, but I hope it goes well. Like I think it's. I agree with what you're saying. You do have to,
Yeah.
be the adults in the room, right?
Yes, our NZNO delegates have a lot of different ways of communicating. We're expert in communication, verbally or non-verbally, and you can send a message in all sorts of different ways, and I'm sure they'll come up with some.
Interesting. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that room. That's for sure. Chewie,
Yes.
any final thoughts, questions?
No, just my unwavering support for the nurses and what they're asking for. I think the public are behind you, and just to underline something here, I think the public are also seeing through this
Yeah.
line of bullshit
Yeah.
that the
Oh,
government
absolutely.
is spinning, not just for you guys, but for the teachers, for the
Yes,
firefighters,
firefighters,
for the
doctors.
police,
Yep.
for the doctors, GPs, the whole works.
Yep.
It's frightening how similar it is right across the board.
Mm. May I say something, Chewie? I just want to say thank you
Absolutely.
for bringing people on like Craig Rennie. At the interview you did with him using Te Wharaora's own data about the so-called average 125,000 for a nurse, and the very, very recent statement by Simeon Brown that we have had a 74% increase in our pay, which is actually 0.5% over about 14 years if you take inflation into it and take the equity payout. So, 0.5% over those many years, that's the rise we've really had. So, having people like Craig Rennie on your show who do really in-depth analysis is very much appreciated by all the nurses around the country. You've got a real fan club there.
That's great to hear, and I will definitely relay that on to Craig if he's not listening tonight. I think he'll be chuffed.
Yes, he loves his numbers, and this is very much his fight, as is all the unions at the moment. We've got a teacher in the household, so I really feel for public servants and the fight you have to do just to get what, the average employee gets in the country when they get to negotiate with their managers. You guys have to fight and, fight tooth and nail to get what is deserved, You guys work really hard, and
Absolutely.
I hope there's a resolution soon. And I really do want to see a much better health system for all of us. And for
I
you
do
guys too.
too.
It's hard to work in that.
Yeah, I'm a believer in miracles.
No, I hope it's not a miracle. I hope it's an inevitability.
It's
It'll happen,
inevitable.
right? Inevitable, it'll happen. All right, we better let you go because you've had a long day, I can imagine. So
You've got a
and
very
getting some
patient
rest.
doggo and a very patient husband, and I thank them both,
Yes.
as well as
I
for your
really
time.
appreciate that. Thanks very much. We'll see you around, guys.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Have
thank
a good
you.
evening.
Have a good night.
Bye.
And that was Anne Daniels, President of the NZNO, Nurses Organisation. Yeah,
You'll
after a
enjoy
pretty
this.
busy week.
You'll enjoy this story. And before we went to air, and I was just talking to Anne, we actually met at a Save Dunedin Hospital protest that Simeon Brown was in town for.
Was this the one that you famously in your plaid shirt pushing a sign around?
Yes. And Anne pointed out the fact that I sandwiched her between myself and Simeon Brown's car and the police as she was trying to get out of the way. And I was like, I'm not moving. I want to yell at Simeon some more. So yeah, we had a good laugh about that.
That's so funny. Oh, hey, it's worth it. You gotta hold power to account.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I've mentioned on the show a couple of times that it is personal for me as well. My sister is a nurse here in Dunedin Hospital, and look, all of those media stories about how bad it is, I have been hearing that anecdotally from her for years. So this isn't a new thing. It's not something that's just happened. We don't fund the health system enough. We don't focus on safe staffing levels enough. And that's just not for the nurses' benefit, that's for the patient's benefit. And I just don't see why it's apparently not a good use of public money to make sure that the public are healthy, safe, and looked after. That's like just job number one for the government as far as I'm concerned.
Well, they can do that. They're just going to build some private hospitals to do it instead, and then we have to pay for that instead of just having it as a human right. In a country that still has, we're fighting for it, a free healthcare system. Well, mostly free healthcare system that supports and looks after its people.
Rachel was also a protest buddy as well. So
sandwiched between you and Simeon Brown's car.
Just trying to get away, and I'm like, no, we stand, we do not move.
Get right over it. It's okay. We're surrounded by nurses. It's fine. Right. Let's get to some super chats. Like a Peter that says, it doesn't sound like TWO, Te Whatu Ora, is acting in good faith. Well, are any of the government ministers acting in good faith? It's just... so many. Kiwi Burb says, I will say boo on Anne's behalf then. Boo.
Boo that man!
Boo him. I could not be in the room for that. Yeah. I understand you have to, this professional, you gotta do, but, oh man, I would just be like,
I don't.
Fuck you.
I don't though. I can boo whoever I want, whenever I want. However I want.
Well, Citizen Gold also says boo.
Just boo.
Boo. Good egg Gales for $5 says, I want a Hobbit badge. I played rugby at their primary school. What?
I don't understand, but I feel like some of the mystery will be lost with the explanation.
It was 5 minutes ago, and I am not scrolling back through the chat to figure out what the context of that was. Soz about it. I'll say that one was for the chat. 'Cause I don't... Anyways. So big thank you to Anne, and I'll just reiterate what she said earlier as well, is that we love our nurses. We can see they're working hard, they're doing a good job, but we need to speak up now, and we need to start complaining. Every little bit, just every little bit, and it's not like don't think of it as an attack on the nurse that was helping you or serving, doesn't sound quite right. Think of it as an aid to their cause, to put in the record your disdain for Te Whatu Ora and this government's and previous governments' lack of funding for our public health servants and our public health services. So if you've had an experience recently that you think is worth mentioning, please go and find the complaints you're smart peoples. I'm sure you know where to find those. Maybe Chewie's going to have a quick look for where to find a form, perhaps. Yeah, go make a complaint. I think that's the takeaway here. Speak up. We love our nurses. We need to speak up and say the system sucks.
And I think people would be hesitant to do that for one of potentially two reasons. They don't want to see to be punching down on the nurses that are doing their best. And I think the nurses, as you've seen from what Anne said tonight, will absolutely understand what you're doing. You're not attacking the nurses, you're attacking the system. And then the other reason, and I think this is perhaps the more nefarious part of it, is there's no point in me making a complaint, nothing ever changes. But if you don't, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But yeah, just there's no one sort of form, or every DHB in the country has a different complaints form, but literally Googling hospital complaint form brings up all of them. Feedback for Otago Southland, Well South, complaining to the Health and Disability Commissioner, it's all there. So if you are unlucky enough to be in that situation, make your voice heard. If you're not unlucky enough to find yourself in that situation, make your voice heard anyway by talking to your news media, by supporting the nurses doing their strike action, and I guess first and foremost, for voting for the right fucking party this time round. Just saying, there's an election coming.
There is an election coming. Speaking of, I need to organise some local candidates to come on and have a chat too. I met one of the people going for Riccarton Council. Well, actually, no, I knew of them already. They're an acquaintance, a family member of an acquaintance. But I didn't realise they're going for council, so I have to get them on to have a chat with us. But yes, local elections, a good point coming up very soon.
That is a good reminder. I had a conversation with someone a few days ago that was wondering if and when BHN was going to do what we did last time, which was an extensive series of interviews with mayoral candidates from down here in Dunedin. And the answer is, unfortunately, because Pat is not Mr. Fantastic and can be stretched to an enormous degree in every direction, we are not doing it this time round. He did like 2.5 hour interviews with all of our mayoral candidates, however realistic they are, and we have, I believe, 40 of them this time round. So yeah, with all of our other BHN products and brands and that sort of thing, Pat is a very busy beaver. So yes, we aren't doing that. But one thing I will highlight is Paul, the other one, who we often big up on this show, has released a series of videos looking at each council, and I did see Dunedin's one pop up just now, and local lefty legend Mark Baxter often puts out a guide. So I will be putting that up on our Facebook page, my Facebook page, Blue Sky, our Discord, all of our various channels, just for people here in Otepoti to help form their decision.
Yes, and Magenta does say Friday for the locals. And yes, this will be probably our mission for most of September's Friday shows. We'll try and get a few candidates on to have a chat. We had one of the one of the Wellington Mayor candidates, whose name I have forgotten because I'm terrible with names, if Magenta could remind me, who made an appearance a few Fridays ago. Somebody's going to say it. Somebody's going to say it. I can't remember.
Throw you a lifeline.
Come on.
Alex
Baker. Alex Baker.
Oh, yes, Alex Baker. Yep. Yes. I'm also going to mention this comment because I feel it in my soul from Heck and Bees here. Local elections are hard because so many people suck. Why does Wellington have a clown that can speak fluent Lao?
This is exactly so. Alex popped onto our show after a Friday night Wellington what would you call it? Forum panel where they all get up there and answer questions. And it was on It's in the Ballot, run by It's in the Ballot, and I jumped in just before our stream to have a look at what was going on, and the first thing I saw was a guy in full clown face, and I was very confused about whether or not I was watching the correct thing, and if it was kind of a joke or a meme to like get people to watch. So I asked him about it, and he was like, I have no idea, but yes, he is running for mayor. So oh,
Look,
I don't know if it's a commentary on how politics is a clown show. I don't know. There's a lot of questions. Oh, great. Wonderful. We got a vampire
Meanwhile,
now too.
in Dunedin, we have a vampire. Because of course we do. And all he will say is he also works in a care home, which I think that's lazy. I think that's lazy. He's not out putting in the mahi, finding that he's just at the finish line waiting. Oh, that's horrible. I'm a bad person. Sorry.
Wonderful. Speaking of bad people, I could say one of many names. We've had some weird times in politics, foreign politics in the last week. New Zealand's been on the main stage, getting out there and around, representing us well, we've had multiple people representing us on the world stage in some very strange circumstances. So Helen Clarke and John Key were in China for China's military parade and celebrations
I think you might have
of
actually
the
mispronounced that, Eames. It's China.
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 Sorry, China's military parade, as I'm sure Trump was very jealous of it. For the anniversary of the end of World War II.
Now, come on, Eames. You've got to use the full name.
Oh, what have I done?
It's the 2025 China Victory Day Parade is the short version. The actual name is Conference to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War. That is how you name a parade.
With backflips and dance floors and
Goddamn.
weird flapping of the, I don't know what they were doing. Anyway, it's worth watching if you're got 5 minutes to watch the, I don't know, highlights of whatever that was. Anyways, so our two former prime ministers, most recent, well, except Jacinda, Helen Clarke and John Key made an attendance at that. But also there was Putin and Kim Jong-un. In fact, either side of Winnie the Pooh. What is it? Xi Jinping. Yeah, bit of a funny one to then see, two of our people there at the same time. And also this week, as of I think last night, Judith Collins made a trip to Ukraine as well to show our support for the Ukrainians. The news started today with about a 10-minute piece of Judith Collins's visit, which then immediately followed by an expert in Chinese politics and foreign politics condemning, calling it quite chilling to see Helen Clarke and John Key in China. So two very weird things happening. So what I've done is I've taken the full 10-minute clip and just taken a few bits out of it to go through with you. And I'd love to get your thoughts on what's going on there. Chewie? So Simon does a really good job just basically introducing the Ukraine side, because this is the most recent, and talking about why Judith and what she was doing in Ukraine. With my audio on. Ready?
It's in New Zealand's interest to be on the side of what's right, not what's powerful. Those are the words of our Defence Minister, who has just left Ukraine after a top-secret visit, only the second by a current New Zealand minister since Russia's full-scale invasion. In the capital, Kyiv, Judith Collins meeting with her Ukrainian defence counterpart, saying, "Our support for Ukraine remains steadfast and is deeply valued by officials there." The trip, though, not without risk, in a nation that appears far from peace. As the minister travelled to Kyiv by train, Russia was unleashing hundreds of attack drones and dozens of missiles, most targeting western Ukraine. President Putin, boosted by support from allies in China, warning he'll fight on to achieve all his goals if Ukraine does not sign a deal. Last night's meeting in Kyiv, a chance to share commitments ahead of a so-called coalition of the willing gathering of state leaders in Paris tonight. The Ukrainian president will be joined by around 30 leaders, including Christopher Luxon, via video link.
Oh, he's going to stay up late.
Yes, he's actually going to attend this one, which is interesting.
Maybe he'll
so
have
that was a nice
nap
little
in the afternoon. Nice little coffee. Glad to see you could schedule it.
So that was a nice little introduction about what we were doing over in Ukraine. So this is another minute or so just to explain what it was that Judith was doing there and what exactly the happenings were.
The New Zealand government making a rare visit to the at-war country. One news there for the journey, a 12-hour train ride from Poland. While we travelled in, the city was under a red alert with air raid sirens. Security advice was provided by the New Zealand Defence Force and local and international advisors. Given the risk, why did the minister think it was worth visiting?
It's important to me now because we are at the stage really where we need to continue to bolster support for Ukraine.
On the agenda, meeting with Ukraine's government, including her counterpart Denis Shmyhal.
Your nation is absolutely great nation, very supportive, very friendly friend for us, very big friend for us.
It comes among intense efforts from Western nations to push for the end of the war.
But in one way, it's spinning and going nowhere because all of this is based on the idea that first, the fighting has to stop, and there's no prospect of that happening at all.
So that gives a little bit of a debrief of what Judith was up to. The next two are
Minister
a bit
visiting
more...
Ukraine as an insurance.
Those autoplay, didn't realise I did that. The next two are a bit more commentary from Judith Collins about the importance of New Zealand being part of the effort in fighting against Russia, for fighting with Ukraine, or at least helping them fight Russia. Chewie, any thoughts briefly before I go into that?
Again, I'm going to get caught on praising someone from this government again. Look, I'm glad that Judith Collins has gone to Ukraine to see what it is. That we're a very long way away. And if we only look at things from a distance, we'll never get the full picture. So for our defence minister to go over and talk to her counterparts that are having this existential struggle to maintain their territorial borders and actually find out what they want rather than just throwing shit at a wall and seeing how it works. It's important for us, in my mind, who no matter who's in the government, that we are on the right side of history on this. I just wish we were on the right side of history in Palestine as well. My mind was going, we've got two former prime ministers in China seeing their military parade. It would be dreadfully ironic if Judith was in the vicinity of a Chinese-made drone fired from a Russian site into Kyiv. Like, this is how tangled it is, the global situation at the moment. I think it's, the reason for that Chinese military parade, 80 years since the end of World War II for those guys, we were an ally of China in the war. We were fighting against Japan. It's appropriate for a New Zealand representative to be there. It only becomes awkward when you look at China's friends as well and go, well, hang on, this is dreadfully awkward. And I don't know a diplomatic way that you could do that. You know, Helen Clarke made our ties to China closer.
And that was basically her reasoning
her
for
tenure.
for going. Yeah.
Yeah, she was, and I think in my point of view, correctly identifying that we couldn't be too far to the US side of influence in the Pacific. You know, China's a major trading partner. That just makes sense. And then John Key came in and solidified that even more by his links to China, to the point that he had a former Chinese spy in his government. But yeah, everything's real tangled. You know, everyone's cut Russia off. China's still supplying them because there's money to be made. North Korea is actively fighting on the front lines over there. And we've got former prime ministers standing next to their leaders. It's a weird place.
Coming back to Ukraine, would you like to hear a wordeth from Judith about a little bit more about the trip? All I put in my notes was why Judith was there, number one. So I'm not sure if this is the one or the next one where she's speaking.
She wanted to see a functional train?
Well, yeah.
Like if a war-torn country
too,
if a war-torn country that's actually being invaded by a much bigger neighbor can maintain passenger rail services, why can't we?
International as well. International rail services from Poland. Armored too. Anyways, let's have a listen.
The Defence Minister rejects visiting Ukraine as an insurance policy for our own security and future, with Europe providing protection, but she says it doesn't hurt to be seen here.
Economic and
Don't know where that came from either. It was just
what
a bit of a...
was that comment? It was so
bit of a-
weird.
I don't know where that comment must have come from to ask the question, but not one I ever would have considered. But we'll let Judith answer. I honestly, there is no context to this. This just is what she stated, and I don't know where it came from. So at least I'm missing something. But
He's seen here.
economic interests. Basically, the rules-based order lets us trade, lets us be able to take our ships from using the UNCLOS rules to go and trade and do what we need to do. Without those rules, countries like New Zealand are extremely vulnerable, both economically as well as security-wise.
The minister telling Ukraine she looks forward to hearing how New Zealand can be involved in keeping the peace.
you like foreign politics, Chewie. Can you simplify rules-based order? Something about ships?
Yeah.
Like what? What?
So this is where it all falls apart. This term, the international rules-based order, we love throwing that around these days. And do you know what? It means nothing. Russia deciding we don't like our borders here, we'd actually like them halfway through the middle of downtown Kyiv, was the start of that falling apart. Like, Ukraine's actually a really important part of that phrase, the international rules-based order, because when Russia broke apart, Ukraine gave up its long-range nuclear strike options, its missiles, its bombers, gave them all back to Russia under the proviso that the US and NATO would protect their integrity, their national sovereignty, right? So that was meant to keep Russia on their side. Ukraine wouldn't need to come into NATO. It's basically everything that Russia is asking for now. But then Russia invaded, and the international rules-based order did fucking no, we can't do anything. You know, we can give you some of the old military shit that we've got in a shed somewhere. You know, good luck. Good luck. No, we're with you. We're not with you. And to my mind, that term, the international rules-based order that Judith is bringing up in terms of Ukraine, is again absolutely shattered by what Israel is doing in Palestine. The international rules-based order is the fact that borders mean something. That you can't just roughshod charge into your neighbor and go, this is mine now. And so here we have two really large examples where the international rules-based order is standing on its own fucking shoelaces trying to decide what to do. So if they can't do anything, it doesn't mean anything. I think Judith is right in identifying that it's the international rules-based order is really important to us because we're a small country isolated from everywhere else with basically very minimal ability to defend itself. Trade is our weapon. Friendships are our armor, that sort of thing. And we've learned that when Japan sort of looked at us and went, you know what? Holiday destination. We'll have that, thank you very much. While we were on a different part of the world fighting for someone else. So yeah, I think she's identified that, yes, it is important. I think she's tenuously trying to tie it to what we can do for Ukraine. And I think when we're talking about Palestine and we're talking about Ukraine and we're talking about where New Zealand sits in the world, our government flip-flops between, oh, we're too small. No one pays any attention to what we do. It doesn't matter what side we fall on it. Who are we to say? And at the same time, we punch above our weight. We've always fallen on the right side of history. We haven't. We like to think we have, but we don't. And we're being very slow at that at the moment. Like, there's not much that we can do to influence what happens in Ukraine, but it is important that we pick a side. That we stand for the fact that, well, Russia went over the border. They invaded under fake pretenses. They're the bad guys. Why can we not do that for Israel? We got caught up in the whole October 7th thing and we didn't look at anything else. We don't have a coherent position that goes across both of those things, which I see as stay inside your own border, stop killing civilians, all of you.
Would you like to see the last clip from the story, which is
Absolutely.
A bit of commentary at the end from the reporter whose name I don't know, I'm sorry, about why Judith was there. I should have put more in my notes other than why Judith was there, number 2. Hopefully it's self-explanatory because I'm smart and I cut it correctly, so it's nice and obvious. Let's have a listen to this.
Now, the government wanted to be seen defending democracy on the world stage. The risk of entering a war zone, that travel time from New Zealand, the train overnight in and out from Poland, all added to New Zealand's message of this is what we're willing to do to support Ukraine, something that they wanted Ukraine to feel, but they also wanted the world to see. The Defence Minister says that going there is in New Zealand's best interests, and it really speaks to how concerned New Zealand is right now as a small trading nation about the volatility that we are seeing in the world. The hope is that with New Zealand going there and having this show of support, that other countries will be motivated to follow suit.
There you go. So a little bit more, basically echoing what you were saying there, Chewie.
China analyst and expert.
Stop playing things automatically.
I think our position as a small nation, and so therefore we don't need to stand for something, is just such a cop-out, and it just, at my core, doesn't speak for what I believe this country should be. I think we should be brave in articulating what we stand for, no matter what the situation is. But yeah, sometimes it's couched in quite mercenary terms. It's like, well, we're a small trading nation, so we'd like to trade with Ukraine, please. Once you're finished, I think we can see you're busy. Have you heard of milk? We've got loads.
And honey. And meat.
Yeah.
Very good at meat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we hear that...
We're also really good at nurses and teachers. Just saying, it's one of our upcoming exports.
If you want some nurses, we've apparently got too many.
And doctors too, you might need them. Jesus, it's dark. Oh,
look, there is... Look, I would have loved to see who mentioned the fact that there's New Zealanders fighting on the front line in Ukraine today. You know,
it is mentioned in the story.
Okay.
No, sorry, not fighting on the front line. No. But they have armed forces over training in Poland and mostly UK, I think. But no, you're right. It's not mentioned that there are.
You know, that's not official. They're not under the New Zealand flag. Actually, famously, they're fighting under the laser Kiwi. But yeah, there are former New Zealand Defence Force members that are fighting for the Ukrainians. I don't know whether that's a bit of a position for a defence minister to acknowledge or not, because they're not probably officially supposed to be there. They're on holiday. But personally, I would have liked to seen it.
Yeah, so a bit of an interesting one. This particular trip being planned. In another interview with Sam on Stuff, Judith was saying that Luxon is planning to visit Ukraine in the near-ish future. And she was pressed on, when will that be? And Judith, very rightly so, said, I'm not going to tell you because obviously that would put it at risk. Actually, no, I don't know if he did. She did say it for that reason, perhaps. I think it was more so that I think she actually positioned it as, I can't speak to Luxon's diary, basically. So it'll happen when it happens type deal. My only thoughts kind of coming out of this, I think a few people kind of alluded to it in the chat as well, is this kind of positioning from Judith of one of sort of, well, there's two ways, schools of thought, I guess. It's kind of like, it's Judith's attempt of, look at me, I'm so brave, I'm going to Ukraine and I'm showing, leadership and putting us on the world stage and showing that we're a strong nation type thing. And then I guess the other one is just kind of like more of a political move of sorts. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of feels a bit like she's, I suppose it's the same sort of school of thought, really. But positioning herself as a leader with a spine and courage, going over and showing that in a place that is, like not a war zone. It is a functioning city, kind of. But also war-torn, but it's also not the safest place to be, as they were saying, travelling into the capital with all the strikes still happening and the air raid sirens going off. I don't know, what do you think, Chewie? Do you think this is her pulling a political move and pulling one over Luxon and saying, look, I'm better? Or do you think it's just, no, she's just doing her job?
I would take almost any opportunity to punch down on Judith. I'm not going to do it here. I think being in charge of the defense portfolio, she's the appropriate person to be there. Do I think that Luxon would bring literally anything to that particular table? Even less than Judith is bringing. So, I guess, look, all I can say is, as far as Luxon goes, I'm glad that he's managed to rearrange his nap schedule to actually be on that call this time. Because obviously that was a big thing that pissed me off, that it just didn't seem like he could manage it because it was late at night. It's a very, very weak excuse to not stand up for democracy.
Someone just told me to fix my gain. I am still here. And so I was just having a quick look at the gain. I can't remember which one's the gain. It is saying that I'm peaking. And I agree, because I've been watching it in the past and it was peaking. But I can't remember which setting I'm supposed to put it at. Anyways. But thank you for telling me. I like audio files. They make streaming much better. If you know what an audio file is. Right. So I got one last clip on the thing, and that's the other side of the world. In the last 48 hours, we had John Key and Helen Clarke in China. This is the weirdest thing. That story played through, right? And then immediately after, we had this story. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's about 2 minutes long, but I'll play the full thing through for you guys. And then we can have a final wrap-up of New Zealand and on the foreign stage. Foreign politics. A go.
A China analyst and expert is describing the attendance of two of our former prime ministers at China's military parade this week as particularly chilling. And Christopher Luxon's made it clear he wouldn't have gone if invited. Here's senior political reporter Judith Collins.
Dictators, strongmen and warmongers, some of the controversial cast of world leaders gathered in Beijing for this enormous military parade. But it was the attendance of two of our former prime ministers that's raising some eyebrows back home.
So it's particularly chilling that our two former prime ministers representing New Zealand democracy went and added their legitimacy to this event, symbolising a new authoritarian China-led global order.
I wouldn't have gone. Yeah.
You've just spoken about our foreign policy approach. Do you think that Clarke and Key's attendance upstaged that?
Well, again, I just say they acted as private citizens, and those are decisions that you should direct at them.
Our government was officially represented there by our diplomatic corps. Helen Clarke defended them. So,
just pointing this out, Luxon's immediate thing, oh no, I wouldn't have gone. New Zealand, as you just said, was represented not by these two as private citizens, fair enough, but by diplomatic, like, of the current government, right? Diplomats were, so in one voice he's saying, oh, I wouldn't have gone, oh, no, I wouldn't have gone, but also he's representing, he is the Prime Minister of the current government who did send people, so...
And let's be clear here. If Russia hadn't invaded another country, we would have had some sort of representative at their Victory Day parade for the end of World War II, because we were allies. And it is the same here for China. Now, China, sure, they might be selling weapons to people, but so does America and all of that sort of stuff. They're not actively involved in invading Taiwan at the moment. You know, they're not actively at war with someone. So it's kind of, it gets a wee bit fuzzy. You know, there's a lot of things that we don't like about China. But in a diplomatic stage, it's like, well, we kind of got to send someone. And these guys have had contact with the Chinese government. They're known entities. And yes, they are private citizens. So that's kind of like you've got a ball in both courts, right? And we'll have an ambassador there in an official capacity. I think it's good that Luxon didn't go, because again, the less the world is exposed to Luxon, I think the better off everybody is. Like, I still cringe at that video of him in South Korea where they heartfeltly thank us for our support and making sure that there's still a South Korea and that New Zealanders fought and died for them. And then he goes, I really like Squid Game. That was bad. So let's just keep Luxon away from diplomacy.
Pretty sure that was like off the back of us cancelling the ferries, right? Like that was the same...
was beforehand. That was before we sent a text message and said, "Oh, you know those ferries? Yeah, no, don't worry about it."
Yeah. Damn, he really sucks at foreign politics. Rightio then. We'll continue on.
Diplomatic corps. Helen Clarke defended their attendance, saying she and John Key were instrumental in forging our strong economic ties with China.
But if we were only ever to talk to those countries which shared exactly the same political systems and values as we did, it would be a pretty small conversation. So, you know, we have to learn to operate in a world which can be quite challenging.
But this expert feels their attendance amounts to interference in our foreign policy.
New Zealand didn't need them to attend the event, but China needed them to attend their event because it shows that New Zealand in some way, or prominent people connected with New Zealand, are adding their legitimacy to this display of force by China.
Which is a really interesting take on it too, I
fair
think. And I think
counter-argument.
that's, yes, and I think that's kind of where I've landed as well, is like, I find it really difficult because all the things that you've basically pointed out is that, or because of economic ties and our relationship with China is interesting because we do rely on them quite a lot, but we are a nation that probably more so, hopefully, still kind of does more lines with the likes of, you know, your AUKUS types, and probably a bit more in terms of our politics and our political systems, right, and our democracy. So, yeah, and as she does say with Sam Hayes that she did Helen Clarke weighed up going, and whether or not it was the right move, but she basically said it in that as well, as like, you know, we don't always align with the people 100% that we are aligned with. We don't always, you know, I think the US is the one that we're all looking at the moment going,
well, look, this is international diplomacy, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean,
but I do
sometimes
think
it's
it's a
real
difference
fucking
between us
clear-cut.
sending. Yeah, there's a difference between sending a diplomatic corps on our behalf and being like, yeah, we were there, but then also having two people that are former prime ministers turn up. And I think, yeah, just, yeah. I mean, it's just the thing that's uncomfortable is the fact that Putin and Kim Jong-un were either side of Winnie the Pooh. I can't remember his name. Xi Jinping.
He hates that apparently, so Winnie the Pooh will do. Look, I'm sure that there are entire rooms. Of course there are. It's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, devoted to sending a message. What sort of sending a message does sending this level of diplomat? Do we have to send the ambassador? Do we need a member of the government? You know, debating all of the pros and cons before anything is done. Obviously, not counting Nikki Noboats just flicking a casual text off. Nobody was involved in that decision. But yeah, I find this stuff really interesting. I do have kind of a fanfic version of just Helen Clarke having a cup of tea or an hors d'oeuvre at an event involved with this, and then just seeing Putin across the room and going, you know what? I'm going to go and tell him what I think. And just walking across and going, stop being a dick. Stop it. Go back to your own country.
Interesting that you say that. The Stuff article from last night was they had Seymour. Of course Seymour made a fucking comment about this. He makes a fucking comment about anything and everything when it's not really related to him in the slightest. But he was saying that he said he would feel a bit dubious being in the room with Putin, but he said he didn't know if he could pass up the opportunity to have a chat with him, basically. But I think he said it in kind of like a dissenting way, as opposed to like oh, that would be interesting. But yeah, no, it's a weird one, eh?
There's an interesting question I'm going to put up, and I think this is just the distilled version of international diplomacy at the moment. So this is the world's choice: stay with the USA or join BRICS. Both options are repulsive, so where does the world sit? And I think that's a really key point for a country like New Zealand that has, like, we have been very firmly in the US Western democracy sphere of influence, just as our position as being a former colonial property of an old world empire, and again we're talking about the shadow of World War II. Like, it's still there. The same sides that were carved up at the end, they're still nominally the same sides that we're talking about now. And a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, especially when we're talking about fucking white dudes in a room pointing at the Middle East and just drawing lines on a map. That was a good move. Fuck, that's not going to come back to bite anyone. We're still dealing with this at the moment. And I think, and I only speak for myself here, this is why I think what New Zealand has done, what we've participated in, the things that we've stood up for, and the things that we want to be known of. Are you hearing that really weird vibration noise? Are you hearing that as well, Em?
Yeah, it's coming through my mic, and I don't know what it is. Hang on. Continue talking.
Very strange. I think this is a thing that sometimes governments... This is something that should go over and atop governments, right? It's kind of like a national myth or a mission statement, if you want to be really corporate and wanky about it. But I think that where we are in the Pacific at the moment is that as a Pacific nation with a mixed history and that has stood up for issues like nuclear free, like being anti-apartheid, that sort of thing, is that frames where we stand. I don't think you can look at our traditional allies and go, yeah, you're 100% doing 100% good in the world, especially from an American standpoint. But I don't think that means that you can go and look at BRICS and go that that's the way forward, because again, it's dominated by Russia and China. I think that's where you would traditionally turn around and go, well, that's what the UN's for. But we've spoken about the UN. It's so hamstrung by the vetoes that came out of the Cold War that it can't do anything. So is the best position that we have here in New Zealand is try to maintain friendly contacts with as many countries and regimes as we can, unless they do something really egregious, like charge into their neighbour and start wholesale murdering civilians or putting people in camps. You know, and we need to be free enough to go to China, to their parade, and be able to say, hey, just to let you know, we are going to tell everybody that what you're doing with the Uyghurs is bad. But we're also going to tell you that your huge electrification efforts in power generation and transport has been noticed and is a net benefit to the world. America, I'm looking at you. Why are you building concentration camps and swamps? It's making us real fucking nervous. You know, we need to be able to be in a position that we can freely just point at people and say that this is wrong. That's what I want for this country. I don't know if that was a rambling, incoherent stream of consciousness position, but I don't work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so I don't have to back it up.
That's what we expect from you, Chewie, so you're doing a great job.
I know you're trying to hunt down that vibration, but it did look like, oh, he's off on one of his tears again. I'm going to go and do something else.
No, it was the bass on our speaker is quite... actually, it's not even that. It's my bloody microphone recently has just gotten like more sensitive, and I can't figure out the settings to fix it. So sorry. Doing my best. Doing my best. I don't have fancy stuff like Pat does. All right, we are well overdue for some super chats, I think.
Oh shit! Yes. Did you want me to grab them?
Yes, because I'll set up these
ones we've already read. Okay. Oh, yes, this is a good point. Peter says, Judith wants a medal now. Seymour got one from Ukraine. I saw that. Oh, he got a Medal of Freedom from Ukraine for being a staunch supporter of Ukraine. And I'm just like, has he been? But apparently... he was reasonably key in making us send close to expiring Javelin missiles to Ukraine very early on. So if that is true, God, this is a night for it. Well done, David. That didn't feel very good.
I'll make you regret saying that in about 2 minutes. Don't worry.
I know it's fleeting. It's very temporary. JC and the Pigeon Cats. If I had to choose between Xi's authoritarian state, capitalist socialist China, or Trump's fascist faux democratic US, I know what I would choose. Which one? I can't tell from your statement. I don't know. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about there. Oh, we follow on. China invests in public infrastructure, health and transport, etc. So daily life is pretty good there on a low income.
Look,
the authoritarian regime
China
makes the trains run on time.
It's kind of a weird one because it really falls into that communism good versus communism bad. Like communism has never been done
They're not communist.
in its purity, right? Well, that's what I'm saying. Communism has never been done in its purest correct form, right? There's something about communism that always leads to authoritarianism, and that's sort of China's done that kind of weird thing of like, hey, actually, we're doing good things, infrastructure, things are pretty good. But then it's like, yeah, but then there's all the stuff about like points for not criticizing the government and like being spied on, or if that's kind of like, or would you rather be in the US where you have to basically pay or die?
Not be black.
Yeah, or not be black, threats of being shot every 5 minutes, especially if you're not white. It's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, the argument there is like, oh, China's an authoritarian regime. Can we really look at America at the moment and go that they're not an authoritarian regime? Like, the lines are getting very, 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 very fucking blurry, I tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, I had this amazing discussion with someone once about where China is on the communist spectrum, and they're nowhere near it. Like, the government is authoritarian. It's founded on some of the principles of communism, but I think even right from the get-go, the people setting up, I guess, modern China, modern communist China, looked at their society and went, the people aren't going to buy this. Our whole society is not really set up for this. So, you have a little bit of everything. People have their shops and they can sell their produce and they can buy nice things, and their middle class is exploding. And then you still have governmental leaders hoarding power. You have weird things like, who the best person to run this series of factories is? A general from the army. It's very strange. It doesn't fit in any one box. It is a uniquely Chinese construction. But when you see something like their COVID response or their decision to go, you know what, we're just going to build the world's biggest network of high-speed rail and we're going to do it in 3 years. They get shit done.
I think this is also one of those things where I've seen both sides of it, where it's like, oh, actually, this is all propaganda against China and stuff to make you think things, and actually it's not that bad there. But there's also things that kind of counter that as well that we see on the outside, like, are you sure? Like, is it propaganda, or is there really some weird stuff going on there that's not okay?
Let's be perfectly honest as well.
Constant conflict of, because we've seen, like, you guys covered it a few months ago, where someone spoke out against being it was some anti-Chinese or anti-communist party thing here, and they were being watched by Chinese officials that I think ended up attacking them. So we are seeing that I don't know what you call it, confirms a lot of the things that are anti-Chinese regime authoritarian type stuff. But then again, you also see the trains being built and like people just generally being happy and like thriving capitalism. And I don't know, it's a weird one.
It's not a problem that is isolated to just communism either. It's just people. People, like leaders, politicians, however you want to put them, traditionally want to accrue power and influence and money, and aren't traditionally, wanting to give it up. And that was always the thing. I remember my high school history teacher talking about communism and socialism and going, the problem will always be to transition a society from one thing to another. You have to concentrate an enormous amount of power into the hands of a relatively small group of people, and then just take it on faith that for the goodness of everyone, they will just let it all go again. And that is just against human nature, it seems, because it's never fucking happened. So, I think for your ordinary Chinese citizen that just wants a better standard of living, it is, as long as the government is kind of pulling in that direction, then they're happy to let it progress. I think if the Chinese government had proceeded further down the road of Tiananmen Square and rolling over people with tanks, it might be very, very different. But they did that once, and then they kind of like got a little bit more smooth with it, maybe. But from the look of the chat, we've got people that have lived in China, and JC and the Pigeon Cats has clarified the point of view that he would rather be in China if given the choice, because he's spent time there. But yeah. This is the thing we've had people going, that's just propaganda. Propaganda is a huge thing, right? And I think that comes back to what I'm saying about New Zealand. We need to be not hammer our flag to somebody else's mast. So have the freedom to go, yep, cool. China's doing good stuff. America's doing bad stuff at the moment. And that could switch at any moment. Like, what would New Zealand's position be if China decided tomorrow or in 5 years that they really, really want Taiwan back? Which a lot of analysis, analysts say that is what they are preparing for. That is bad. International rules-based order says, no, don't do that. And everybody seems to be oh God, I was trying to use a $5 word. I'm not going to. Inevitably going towards that position. Everybody just seems to take it on faith that is what's going to happen. Where do we stand if that kicks off?
It's an interesting one, eh? Foreign politics.
And I'm going to be a troll here.
Go fuck yourself, sorry.
No, sorry, disagree.
I think you might as well just say Ukraine is Russia.
Taiwan's not an easy one as well.
Same?
Look, when you look in the history of Taiwan, there was a winner and the loser in the Chinese Civil War, and the losers ran off to Taiwan and basically pushed the indigenous people of that island of Formosa out. So nobody's a good guy. What's that meme of someone going, hey, look, violence is never the answer, and then they open up a history book and they're like, oh no, no, it's all violence. So yeah, look, we've got a lot of strong opinions in the chat tonight. Just to reiterate, strong opinions are fine, counter opinions are fine. Just have respect for us as your hosts and the other guests in the chat. Just be nice.
And the people of Taiwan. The people who
I mean, look, that's the button issue for me. The people of Taiwan do not want to be part of China, so
they're not part of China. I think puts the stake in the ground.
That's it.
Same as Ukraine, same as Hong Kong, same as a lot of countries. Just saying. But we're not politicians, nor have we got any say in anything that happens around the world. We can just comment on it. Just like David Seymour, except he is a politician. Damn it. He does have some sort of power. Do you know what he wants to do?
Oh no. What?
He wants out of the Paris Agreement.
Oh!
He wants to change
I
it.
did see this. And
He wants us out of it.
He's also
it doesn't
like
fit our
not framing it as it should be, of like, I want to shut as many export markets to our farmers as I possibly can.
Well, he and Chloe were on their usual morning chit chat. I don't know how she does it. I would have quit a long time ago, but you know what? She's a better human than I could ever be. And David Seymour has recently said that he does not agree with charging farmers basically a carbon credit equivalent for methane. He believes that our targets for methane reduction are too high and prefers the no additional warming strategy, in which we keep our methane levels the same instead of trying to decrease them, because the methane only stays in the atmosphere for something like 10 years, about a decade, whereas CO2 stays in the atmosphere for much longer. So he's kind of in the camp of this. I feel like it's a very loose science. I couldn't find anything specifically in my very, very small search that was like, yeah, this is the right method. The only thing I could find was that the government put together its own group of people to come up with that solution of, yeah, you could probably do it if you halve the targets. Whereas the Independent Climate Commission said, yeah, no, we need to be here much higher in reducing our methane emissions. Anyways, so he's gone around, found a bunch of farmers that are like, oh, we don't want to pay for this. It's going to make everything more expensive for everyone, blah, 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 blah. And is very much in the firm camp of the theory of let's not make things any better, let's just keep them the same, basically. So he gets put, the question gets put to him, and let's see how he tries to defend not putting carbon credits or methane credits on farmers. It's going to be really loud.
Right. Let's start with you, David, because you're the ones that have run out with this. Are you just trying to grab some of the vote off NZ First who've already said that they would do this?
Well, I don't want to get into an argument, but actually, you know...
David Seymour doesn't want to get into an argument, Chewie. But the but's coming. Hang on. The butt is coming. But...
get into an argument, but actually, you know, ACT's been saying this all year. I think what's important...
You were saying it at field days, were you?
Actually in February, well before field days. But I don't want to get into that argument. I just make the point to you that voters don't belong to any party. Voters have a choice. What I'm trying to put in front of people is the simple idea that our country feeds about 40 million people. That's how much food that we produce. And yet the Paris Agreement is far too tough on agricultural emissions. The effect of that on New Zealand is that we risk, number one, being poorer, because right now it's New Zealand farmers that are paying the bills and keeping the place going, especially in the current economic downturn. But number two, those 40 million people...
No one is debating that farmers are important, but they are not our only industry. Like these myths, you know, about 40 million, feeding 40 million people. If we don't have agriculture, the whole place falls apart. It's just not true, and it's no excuse for just carrying on business as usual when business is not usual. It's the farmers that are going to be paying the price. So if we're going to be poorer, is it from doing the right thing, or is it having to pay for the cleanup of what's coming? Carry on.
But number two, those 40 million people have other options. And if we make it harder to farm in New Zealand, they get their food from other places where they're actually emitting more into the atmosphere, then we could make the climate worse too. So I think it's about time New Zealand stood up for itself and started asking, where are our friends around the world who also have very methane-heavy emissions profiles, and can we be getting a better deal that reflects the fact that methane actually has quite a different effect on climate because of the way that it degenerates. It's time that we start having that discussion, not being afraid, not saying it's terrible. We need to start being a bit more honest in our conversations here.
We might have...
I smell an Atlas talking point.
Yes, very much so. So methane's actually one of the worst, way worse in our atmosphere than CO2. It is far more potent in far lower doses, right? Basically, and this I don't know how long ago it was. It was a wee while ago that I found out that because permafrost is defrosting, right? Permafrost.
Oh yeah, this is terrifying. Yeah,
big chunks of that really solid rock ice, basically in the Arctic, and I assume probably also in Antarctica of sorts. Because it's all melting, it's releasing these giant gas pockets of methane that are essentially thwarting is the correct word there. Thwarting our efforts to reduce our emissions targets, or reduce our global warming target of 2% over whatever it is.
So for David Seymour, that's the point where you throw up your hands and go, see, it's pointless. We shouldn't do anything.
So it's actually even more important right now that we reduce our methane emissions, not just keep them as is. Yeah, you're right. That feels very Atlas talking point. There's a lot behind yeah.
I'm just sick of this thing of farmers do an important job. They do a hard job. I get it. But when all we hear from the farming lobby is, we don't want to pay for it. We don't want to break. We want breaks. We want carve-outs for the way that we've always done things. We want to have our hand out first when the climate comes around and kicks our fucking ass. And everybody else has to pick up the tab. There are a lot of good farmers out there that are rewilding the unproductive parts of their land. They're replanting streams and that sort of thing to mitigate some of these climate effects. Should we talk about the nitrates in the drinking water? Ashburton, Christchurch, all the Canterbury Plains places down in Southland. Their bore water's full of nitrates and it's filtering into the town water supply, and we're going to be looking at an epidemic of bowel and kidney cancers, most likely because of it. But the milk solid dividend is just too good, so...
So after he's spouted these many things, there's a bit of a funny moment. I'll just show you. This is a bit of a funny moment that made me laugh. Just watch
we need to start being a bit more honest in our conversations here.
We might have friends who we want to talk to about that, but the only people so far, I think, that have rejected this agreement are Yemen and Eritrea. Do we really want to be in that sort of company?
It's not actually a fashion show. I mean,
well, but it's a global agreement.
It's also Uruguay.
I'm pretty sure Chloe Swarbrick's got a view on that.
Uruguay.
Yeah.
Look at David's face. He's basically just like, how fucking dare you, bitch? But also, what the fuck is this fashion show comment? Oh, it's not a fashion show. What?
Just let Chloe eviscerate him. That's what we're all here for.
All right. Let's see what she's got to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Paris Agreement is not just about numbers on a page. It's about the scientific limits for life on Earth as we know it. And I just want to make the really clear point that climate change equates to a far higher cost of living for New Zealanders. We see that reflected in insurance premiums being pushed up as a result of a lack of government planning and investment in the likes of climate adaptation, for example. But also I'd make the point that farmers are among those hit first and worst by climate change. If you look at the lack of seasonable predictability, which is happening as a result of climate change, for example, but also if you look at the impacts of the likes of the Cyclone Gabrielle and the likes of the Hawke's Bay. So this is about responsible governance and making sure that we are making decisions that work with the scientific reality, with the honest truth of the challenges that we are facing. But also, to David's point around access to export markets, in fact, our adherence with the Paris Agreement is fundamental to precisely that.
I mean, she makes a good point there, David Seymour. The EU free trade deal, the UK free trade deal, they've all got provisions in there that say we've got to honour what we've signed up to. You're a free trade believer. Why would we be reversing out of that argument?
I mean, let's unpack. First of all, you think it's a good argument. That's your call. Second of all, I believe in free trade, which means I don't like governments restricting what people can trade.
I just wanted to play that wee bit. Yeah, just the fucking thing of like, oh well, that's your opinion. Blah 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 blah.
I want Ryan Bridges back. Where's Ryan?
That's
I
what
like
I got
looking
from
at
this.
his hair. He's
That's
nice
what
to
I got
me.
from
You're
this.
mean.
That is exactly what I got from this. Watching this interview, it felt like, hang on, I usually go on this show and I usually get a free pass. In fact, he's even like finishing my sentences. Like, what is this? Who is this bald man in glasses who basically just cut me off? And looked at me sideways multiple times, by the way. Would you like to continue with this? Yep. Or would you like to? Yes? You want to hear more of what he has to say on this?
Yeah, go on.
All right, let's see how he defends the free, the cost of breaking our Paris Agreement, versus continuing and actually meeting our obligations.
Governments restricting what people can trade. Third, that you're basically proposing that governments should place a restriction conditional on Paris, but more importantly here...
Well, no, I'm just saying they have, haven't they? We've signed up to that, so why would we back out of it now?
Well, we might decide that we need to renegotiate it because it's not fair on New Zealanders, and I just make the point if...
Yeah, New Zealand, us little guys at the bottom of the world, I mean, sometimes, yes, we do minimise us and our place on the world, but seriously, us, we're going to negotiate the terms of the Paris Agreement with some of the world's like economic powerhouses. Yeah, because it's affecting us. What the fucking hell, Seymour? Like he's so up himself. That's pretty much it.
That's his whole vibe.
Or I'll continue.
Here on New Zealanders. And I just make the point, if we want market access, it's up to the people who produce. It's up to the Fonterras, it's up to the meat exporters to work out what exactly is it that their customers want. That's what New Zealand farmers have been doing for a very, very long time. I think what's really important is that we make sure that we are realistic about the science. And so when Chloe says it's not just numbers on the page, actually you do need the numbers right. And we have a real risk that we can drive New Zealand farmers out of business. We can cover New Zealand farms in trees. What? We can end up with our customers getting their food from places that actually emit more, and everybody ends up worse off. So to the extent that you're worried about the things that Chloe raises, for example, to the extent you're worried about weather events making insurance more expensive, well, that's why it matters that New Zealand gets it right and we get a fair deal that reflects the proper science on methane.
Well, you're going to be getting a good run.
So he's apparently a methane expert now, apparently. There's so much in there, and it gets worse as well. We're getting close to 11, and I don't really want to go into more of it.
I don't think anybody wants more David Seymour. So,
unfortunately, he gets even more airtime too, because Chloe cuts out. So, unfortunately, we don't get to hear a rebuttal from Chloe. But yeah, just this idea that you know, the reason that the Paris Climate Agreement or a Climate Accord exists is so that we have a whole world, the whole globe, as much of the developed world as possible, paying attention to the climate crisis that we have, which is legitimate crisis in which we have many decades of science to back it up. It's a real thing. It's to hold each one of us accountable to fixing it so that the next generations after us actually have a livable planet to live on. Because the planet will still go on without us. We will suffer the consequences. And it might not be us that feels it. It might be us in our old age that feels it. The current politicians fucking probably won't have to deal with much of it, other than, you know, the yearly 100-year flood and, you know. But, like, the whole point of the agreement is that we all hold each other accountable. And that it costs us economically if we don't meet the requirements.
I'm going to paraphrase the great David Longy that I can smell the methane on his breath.
Yes. It's just come back from field days. Yeah. It's very concerning how much he is pushing this Trumpian narrative of, nah, we don't want to be part of that. Nah, we gotta, you know, libertarianism, you know, people's free will. Farmers should decide whether or not they produce methane or they don't produce methane, blah, 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 blah. And, like, it's a hard debate. Yeah, there's a lot of cows. It's hard to ask farmers to, like, reduce their stock or find other ways of making money when their entire business is based on cows.
Look,
but there are ways around it. Others are doing it.
I don't know how much this was a fig leaf to we're trying or whether it was a legitimate line of research, but a lot of our agricultural research was looking into grass types that would lower methane emissions or breeding essentially a more efficient cow that farted less. I mean, I love that. Can you imagine that coming up on a first date? So what do you do? Oh, I make special cows that don't fart so much. And it's important because I am literally saving the world. Please sleep with me.
I'm saving the world by genetically modifying cows. Oh, it's so hot. Yeah. But hey, it'd be kind of cool. Make us a lot of money, wouldn't it? If we could produce a cow that farts less.
Oh, all right. I think it's nice time, Ems, before we get a text from Pat saying that we're taking the piss.
Yeah, we are. Well, our show the other night went for an hour and 15 minutes. So 2 hours and 15 minutes, sorry. So we beat you guys for the longest show. You guys were approaching our longest. You beat us. So we had
That is a suicide pact that I am not going to participate in.
I didn't want to participate either, but sometimes the show goes on and you just have to be there. Well, before we go, I have a question for you, Chewie. On a Friday night, sometimes, Magenta and I will pop into the Discord and have a chat. And I got to meet some pretty cool people last week. It's had some great chats while I was trying to do the post-show editing. Just putting it out there, Chewie, that perhaps, you know, on a Thursday night, if you ever wanted to jump in, you know, post-show, I'm sure there'd be the odd person that might want to have a, you know.
I would be killed. I would be killed. I do like spending time with my wife, but I don't. We've both been very busy over the last couple of weeks, and I'm about to leave for another country for 2 weeks, so I will not be participating in that in the near future. But thank you.
Yeah, well, the offer's always there. The chat is, especially on a Friday night. We pop off on a Friday night if you ever find yourself with nothing to do.
I bet. I'm going to leave it to you cool kids.
All right, we got some super chats we need to rock on through, and then we can head off into the night like vampires. Rajan says 1 week left to submit on electoral amendment bill. I didn't even know that was a bill. Should probably go and submit to that. A table salt. Let's go anarcho-communist. I have heard about
communist. I think that would mean that we'd need to redo our national anthem to be like a folk punk version. I think that would be a must.
We could do that. Heck and bees. Slay, Chewie. Keep going, King. I think it's when you took over for 2 minutes while I fixed the buzzing.
You left the room. You know, yeah, it was good.
JC and the Bitch Cats. They are not communists as regards to China. State capitalist with lots of socialism.
Yeah. Doesn't quite fit in the usual box.
I don't think any system really does. Little twinges of fascism.
Oh,
there,
look,
a little
but
twinge of
but
authoritarianism there. A little bit
the
of
Western
capitalism
sphere
there.
definitely wants to put it in a box and just go that China's communist, and that's just too simple and too lazy.
Jason the Bitch Gets Skin says, but that's my experience living there for 10 years, learning their language and culture. Would rather be there than the US. Yeah. Fair point. Speed Locked NZ says authoritarians lead to authoritarian governments. Worming for $8.99. I like that specific number. Beijing and Shanghai aren't standard China. Suppression, tortured, labor camps, subsistence living. Oh, subsistence, thank you. Living are more the norm for the majority of Chinese. Yeah, China's a funny one. I feel like New Zealand we have a fun, awkward relationship with them, don't we? Compared to the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
But hey. Right, well, that must be us then.
It is. Pray for me as I do my window sanding over the next couple of days, and I will see everybody back on Monday.
Fun. Very fun. I forgot you were going to do that. All right. Let's... Stop. I'm not ready. Okay, now.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
Thanks everybody for putting up with me, Pink Pat, for your Thursday evening show, and thank you to my wonderful co-host, Chewie, the regular. Anything to say before you go?
I was here also. Yes, hello. Be cool. Tune in to BHM tomorrow night for M's again, and also Magenta. Yay!
Yay, promo! Alright, have a wonderful night everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Chewie will see you back here on Monday at 9 PM. Okay, bye. Done.
Cheers, fam.
That's not what I wanted. This one.